50 Cent once said Jay-Z was lucky. Lucky that DMX didn't pull the trigger that day. And look, I know that sounds wild, but when you hear what actually went down backstage at that Def Jam event in Manhattan, you'll understand why people who were there said it felt like the calm before a storm, because this wasn't just rap beef. This was two kings from the same city, signed to the same label, and only one throne between them. But here's what most people don't know. Before either of them had a single platinum plaque, before the champagne deals and the billionaire boardrooms, Jay-Z and DMX went head-to-head in a smoky Bronx pool hall. And what happened that night set off a Cold War that lasted for years. So let's talk about it. The year was 1994. New York was still raw. Corners were run by crack hustlers. And hip-hop was transforming from street battles into serious business. Deep in the Bronx, inside a cramped studio with busted speakers and Redman posters peeling off the walls, two hungry MCs stepped up for a showdown. Jay-Z, born Sean Carter, had been making noise. He'd been hustling both in the game and on the mic, freestyling on Jazzo's records while flipping weight back in Marcy. Known for his lightning-fast flow and that icy composure, Jay walked in that room ready to claim his spot. And across from him, a growl, a force, DMX. Earl Simmons came storming in from Yonkers. No shirt, no chain, just raw energy. He was out of breath, straight off the block. No industry polish, no label power. What he did bring was pain, rage, and a notebook full of fire. X had just started buzzing on DJ Clue's mixtapes and popping up on Stretch and Bobito's legendary radio show where hungry unsigned MCs went to lyrical war. People who were there that night swear the air changed when the cipher began. Jay approached the mic like a chess master. Calm, steady, cold. Every rhyme was tight, stacked with multis and clever flips. But when DMX stepped up, everything flipped. He growled, he barked. His voice hit like a weapon. And suddenly that small Bronx studio felt like a cage match. Uncle Murder remembered that night and said X didn't rap. He attacked. The tape never officially dropped. There's no clean footage, just whispers passed from block to block like folklore. Some say DMX edged it out. Others say Jay stood firm. But even though they dapped it up afterward, everyone knew something real had started. And that tension never fully went away. Now here's the part nobody talks about. To DMX, Jay-Z always smelled like industry politics. Too smooth, too detached, too polished to be real. That rubbed X the wrong way deep down. Years later, he'd still be holding on to that feeling. In the Rough Riders documentary, DMX said that dude didn't give him no love when he was down, and he doesn't forget that. Jay, on the other hand, never threw shade at X in public. He played it cool, always moving like a boss in control. But people close to him swore Jay saw something in DMX's eyes that day. Something dark, something cold, something ready to snap at any second. Fast forward to 1998. The underground days were long gone. Jay-Z dropped Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. That album went 5 times platinum. Tracks like Can I Get A and that iconic title cut with the Annie sample turned into pure gold. Jay wasn't just rapping anymore. He was making business plays, stepping into boardrooms, shaking hands with CEOs, and talking about ownership long before the culture caught up. And then DMX came in like an earthquake. In May 1998, he dropped It's Dark and Hell is Hot. Gritty, raw, dripping with pain. It wasn't made for radio. It was made for the streets. And the streets felt every word. That album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 251,000 copies in its first week. It eventually went 4 times platinum. But here's where it gets crazy. Just 7 months later, X came back swinging with Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, 2 platinum albums in 1 year. DMX became the first rapper in history to pull that off. He wasn't just hot, he was on fire. His music bled with pain, darkness, and raw faith. He spoke for the broken, the forgotten, the real ones in the streets. DMX had become the people's champ, and he did it without corporate help, without fancy suits, without strategy meetings. He didn't need a boardroom. He had the block behind him. But while the world was praising him, tension was brewing behind the scenes. On paper, both Jay-Z and DMX were Def Jam artists, label mates. In reality, they couldn't have been more different. Jay was all precision and planning, studying every move like a chess player lining up his next checkmate. He knew the game, the business, the timing. Everything was strategy. DMX was the total opposite. Raw, emotional, explosive. He moved from instinct, from heart, from pain. He didn't care about politics. and he definitely didn't trust anybody in suits. The Rough Riders founders later explained what really caused the rift. When asked about the beef, Chivon Dean gave a one-word answer: egos. Wow, Dean broke it down further. He said Jay called X and told him the inmates have took over the prison. But when Jay got into position as Def Jam president in 2004, X felt like Jay didn't honor him, didn't hold weight like he was supposed to. And this is where it connects to something bigger. See, there was supposed to be a supergroup: Murder Inc., Jay-Z, DMX, and Ja Rule, three of the biggest names in hip-hop at the time, all on the same label. Can you imagine what that could have been? But their egos killed it before it even started. The Rough Riders said they had that past history of the competition, and that's the reason why it didn't happen. They recorded 6 tracks together. 6, and then everything fell apart. The Hard Knock Life Tour in 1999 was supposed to be a celebration. Jay-Z, DMX, Method Man, Redman, J. Rule, all on the road together. They even made a documentary about it called Backstage. But here's the thing. When the soundtrack came out, DMX was nowhere on the cover. For a tour he headlined, the soundtrack went gold, and the guy who sold out arenas every night wasn't even featured on it. That had people talking. The Rough Riders / Cash Money tour happened next instead of a Rockefeller / Rough Riders tour. The writing was on the wall. And then things got real messy. According to Dame Dash, there was a confrontation at that Bronx pool hall that went way beyond rap battles. Dash said Steve called the Rough Riders, DMX shows up, Jay's there, and they get at it on the pool tables. Then he said one of the artists pulled out a gun, and then everybody started pulling out guns. Now look, I can't verify every detail of that story, but what I can tell you is that multiple people have confirmed there was serious tension, the kind that goes beyond diss tracks and interview shots. 50 Cent himself weighed in years later, saying Jay was lucky DMX didn't shoot him that day. Whether that's 50 being 50 or whether there's more to it, the fact that it's even part of the conversation tells you how deep this went. By 2006, DMX left Def Jam for Sony. He was reportedly in debt to the label for around $12 million. And here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Jay-Z, who was Def Jam president at the time, wiped that debt clean. Just let him go. The Rough Riders confirmed it. Wah said the good part about Def Jam, and I gotta give it to Hov, X was in debt over there. Probably owed about $12 million. When X left for Sony, Hov released him and wiped off the debt clean. He didn't have to pay nothing back. So after all that tension, all that history, Jay still looked out for X when it mattered. In 2016, something else happened that caught everyone by surprise. Backstage at Beyoncé's Formation tour in New Jersey, Jay and DMX took a photo together with DJ Khaled. Years of animosity squashed, or at least put to the side. DMX talked about it on The Breakfast Club that same year. He said, as strong as I am, to walk around holding anger, it wears you down. I don't got time to be mad at nobody. Whatever we gonna do, let's get to it and get past it. And look, I think that's the realest thing either of them ever said about this whole situation. We lost DMX on April 9th, 2021. He was 50 years old, heart attack. Jay-Z and Beyoncé were there at his memorial. Whatever happened between them over the years, whatever beef existed, in the end, there was still respect. But man, what could have been? 2 of New York's greatest, both from nothing, both making it to the top. And instead of ruling together, they spent years circling each other like wolves. The Bronx battle, the pool hall standoff, the Def Jam politics, the guns, the silence, and finally, the peace. That's the story they didn't want you to know. So let me ask you this. Do you think Jay and X ever could have made that supergroup work? Or were they always destined to be rivals? Drop your take in the comments because I really want to know what you think about this one. And if you want more stories like this, the ones that go deeper than the headlines, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.